Alright, hey, what's going on everybody? Today we're going to do something different from the RX-7 actually. We'll be putting an intake on this CX-5 here. This is my fiance's CX-5. This is the 6-speed CX-5. You don't always see bigger cars like this in a 6-speed, which I think is pretty cool. So here's the engine bay, pretty clean, pretty stock. Stock intake here. Now the stock intake does have a nice duct here to pull colder air in. We're gonna see if maybe we can keep that, but we'll see. Alright, got the instruction book here. MAF adapter. Opted for black clamps, thought it might look a little cleaner. Got the nice black silicone tube, and got the nice black filter here, Corksport logo on there. Now I know intakes are pretty simple, not everybody uses instructions for them, but I just wanted to run through real quick. Maybe you haven't done one of these before and they're pretty simple. Anyway, it's gonna go ahead and remove the engine cover. You just pull up on it, unplug the MAF, remove the valve cover hose, loosen the hose clamp on the airbox of the throttle body, remove the airbox bracket, disconnect the MAF wiring, pull up on the box lid, remove it from the car. Remove the two 10mm bolts that hold the lower airbox, remove the MAF from the factory airbox, and then you're just going to go ahead and assemble the new stuff and put that on. Pretty straightforward. One thing I like about the Corksport stuff is not only do they give you the quick instructions on the other page, but on this page they literally go through and have each step outlined with pictures. And I mean, like I said before, intakes are pretty straightforward. Most people probably won't even look at these, but I think it's nice that Corksport goes through and does this. Alright, step one, we got to pop this bad boy off, which you literally just pull up on it. Boom, 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 boom. Just has little tabs that go in. Step two, remove the MAF sensor. You're literally just going to push down on this little tab here and it pops right off of this guy. Step three, we're going to pop this guy out of the intake elbow. Just pop it out. You literally just pull up on it. There's nothing you have to loosen, you just pull right up. Next step is going to be to loosen the clamp on the intake elbow here. You can either use a Phillips head screw on the head of it, or you can use a 10mm. I have both here. Sometimes the screw will be just too tight and you don't want to strip it. So I usually get started with the 10mm and then I'll loosen it with the screwdriver the rest of the way. Once you've loosened it enough, just kind of push up and down on it until it broke loose from the actual intake elbow, just because it gets stuck. And then once you've got that fairly loose, your next step here is going to be able to pop these tabs. One right there, one right there. You're literally just gonna put your thumb on there and pop it off. Same thing with this one. Just pull up on the airbox here. Right, for this next step, you want to grab a set of needle nose pliers. You're just going to be disconnecting the tab here that connects the wiring harness to the airbox, so that way you can pull the airbox out without it pulling the harness. It helps if you kind of like rotate this around. I had to just kind of turn it a little, that way I could get to the tab better, but all you're doing here, squeeze the sides here in, that way it can pop out of the bracket on the airbox there. Right, at this point you can kind of grab a hold of this and you're going to twist and pull up loose, and then you can pull the rest of it out. Grab a hold of this whole piece here. This is the top of the airbox. What we're left with is the open throttle body, and then you have the lower half of the airbox still in the car. This is the factory air filter, still pretty clean. This car doesn't have a lot of miles on it. So this is the lower portion of the airbox. Now the stock intake has this snorkel section right here, which pulls air in and it comes down and it goes into the lower airbox. So actually from the factory, these have a pretty nice stock intake because it's going to pull fresh air rather than hot air. New intake technically won't be as efficient, but it will sound a lot better, and that's one of the reasons we did this. I figured if I can leave this in and get a little fresher air in here, that might be a good thing. Once we got that out, here's the new Corksport intake elbow. Looks pretty nice, nice layered silicone. Looks real good. Just gonna go on right here once I put a new silicone coupler on that. So we'll leave that right here for now. So this here is the MAF housing. So this is gonna hold the stock MAF. We have to take the stock MAF out of the other intake and then we put it into here. This piece is pretty nice. It's an anodized MAF housing, so the stock MAF is gonna go in right here like it does on the stock intake. But it's pretty nice. Nice chunk of metal here. It's not plastic. It's not gonna break. It's got a nice airflow label so you know which way to put it on. So it's going to end up sitting in here like this between the filter and the throttle body. Need to remove the stock MAF sensor from this, so it's just 2 Phillips head screws here. Stock MAF just kind of pulls out of here. You're going to want to be very gentle with this. These are expensive and they are very sensitive. Drop the MAF in, and this is the same way it was facing stock. And then you just gotta tighten the screws up and bolt that on, and then this will be good to go. I've got the stock MAF in the new MAF housing now. It's all bolted down, it's nice and tight. Real quick, so all I did here is the smallest of the 3 goes on here. This is the 7785 one, goes on where the throttle body is gonna go, so I just slipped that right on there. Then I took the other end of the elbow and I slipped it over the new MAF housing, and then this gets one of the 8193s, and then the other side of this you just slip the filter on over top of the housing itself, and then this gets the other of the 9183s. So that's what it looks like assembled. In the instructions they tell you to kind of put the pieces on one at a time. I like to kind of do it ahead of time, just that way I can orient it easier. Okay, I went ahead and I slipped the silicone elbow onto the throttle body here. See the edge here that meets up with the edge of that, and this can be rotated and you can play with this a little bit. Like I said, I have the clamps here. I'm going to tighten these one at a time. Start with that one, and you're going to tighten the one that goes on here, and then the one that's here. And I was able to leave the lower airbox in, which as you're driving, some air is still going to go through here even though there's no suction on it, and it will draw a little bit of fresh air into the bottom of the airbox. And it doesn't contact anything, so I figured it was fine to leave in place. You can go ahead and start tightening the one on the throttle body. And you're just going to want to make sure as you tighten it that it stays lined up. So I'm going to get it a little tighter, and then I'm going to realign it a little. Got the first one tightened here, and like I said before, you just want to make sure it stays mostly straight on the silicone elbow here. So you don't want it to get too turned. Anyway, the next step here is going to be grab the breather tube that you had before, and you're going to want to put that to the open slot here. So just a quick tip here. I sprayed a tiny amount of this silicone lubricant on the breather hose because it was kind of fighting me trying to go in, but literally just sprayed a small amount of this on there and in the hose, and it slipped right in. Okay, now the clamp on the throttle body has been tightened and the breather hose is in. We're going to go ahead and tighten up this clamp here. Again, you want to make sure this is flush, and then you're going to go ahead and tighten this one, and then you can move on to tightening this one. And then after that, it's in. You just got to plug in the MAF and we can start it up. All right, all of the clamps are tightened now. The last piece of the puzzle here, grab the harness bit that we unplugged before. You just want to bring this down here. Just going to plug this right in. You'll hear it click. That means it's good to go. And that's it. So that is how you install the Corksport intake on the Mazda CX-5. As you can see, it looks pretty cool in here. I'll go ahead and start it up in a minute. Almost forgot. Last thing we got to do is put this cover back on here. And you literally just push it down, and you'll feel it kind of snap in place. And that is what the finished product looks like. Looks pretty cool. I think it fits it nicely. That's why I went with the black, because everything kind of blends nicely. Alright, awesome. Well, thanks for tagging along and watching today as we put this intake on the CX-5. I think it looks pretty cool on there. The black goes well with everything. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.